Welcome to the Stiff Truth. I am Bob West. I'm here with my good man, Scott Casanova. We're happy to be here this week. Feeling a little bit better for those that are interested. I'm still battling a cough, but I think I'm getting on the other side of it. Scott, how's your week going?
You know what? My week is actually going really well, despite the anxious news on your end there. Feeling really good. No cough, no temperature, no headache over here. I can't complain. Life is good.
Yeah, fuck you.
Rubbing it in.
Excuse me. So, yeah, kind of putting the focus back on me. I really... Sorry, excuse me, guys. I really have been coughing for the better part of a week, and it's very exhausting physically, mentally. I just want to stop coughing already, but I don't feel like I'm getting worse. I don't have a fever. I don't have shortness of breath for the most part, so I am feeling good. I did get tested, and I should get my results back here in a few days.
And Stiffies, real quick, I just want to interject there. He's talking about coronavirus. I know typically he's a free clinic type guy, but we're way past that. We already know what the results are there.
Hey, I haven't been to the clinic since they used to swab you. I hear they don't do that anymore.
What?
Yeah, I hear they swab your cheek now.
Well, that's like the whole rite of passage of going to the free clinic and getting tested for STDs.
It's not even fair. How are these kids going to learn if they don't have something shoved down their dick hole? That's how you learn. It's a hard lesson to learn, but you learn quick that way.
So how do you learn now? Do you just keep getting STDs then? Is that the thing?
I don't think they learn. I think that's why STDs are on the rise. These kids, they need shit shoved down their dick hole. Anyway.
And a pivot.
So, I heard you went to Costco. Was it yesterday?
You know, it was yesterday and Friday, dude. I did it two in a row.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you have to, take the Lysol with you?
You know what it was? You know what it was, Bob? And yes, I did take some hand sanitizer with me, just so you know. I always do. Masked up. It was, standard issue COVID style over at the Costco. But I'll tell you what, man. I mean, we've talked about this, I think, before we've trickled it in. But it's getting better and better, and now it's glaring. I got to talk about it. But anybody that's a raging alcoholic or would aspire to be one, and I know there's a lot on deck.
We got to have dreams, kids.
Absolutely. Costco now has in my opinion, just the best alcohol department at the best prices. It's blowing me away. Bob, you know what I'm talking about, right? You're an avid Costco alcohol purchaser as well.
I do. There's only two places I go to buy booze. That's not true. I'll buy booze wherever if I really can't get any. But there's two places I prefer to go, and that's Costco and Total Wine. But usually I'm at Costco because I do my shopping there. So when you have a litter, you shop at Costco. That's just kind of how it goes. But yes, not only do they have a great wine selection, which is fantastic, but their Kirkland brand boozes are second to none. I mean, I love paying, bottom shelf prices for top shelf drinks.
Honestly, it started, and I think it started with you too. I'm not sure. I don't know kind of the evolution of what was their first branded, hard liquor or what have you. But I think for me, it was the 5-time distilled $12.99 handle of vodka that really, really got me going. I think what really highlighted that for me is I'm always trying to be a thrifty guy. You know what I mean? I don't like to overspend, partially because I do drink a hefty amount of alcohol. So it's not like I'm going to go get top shelf fists that are $100 and kill them in 2 days. That's maybe a little bit of a lie one day. But goodness, man, I think this is what I'm just going to call out a company right now. Svedka vodka, right? Have you ever heard of them?
That's Svedka, not Smegma.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Good. Thanks on that.
Please continue.
But it's supposedly that's a reasonably decent brand of vodka, right?
That's okay.
Yeah, it's not bottom shelf. It's kind of like, like cock level shelf. It's not it's
Yeah,
not
it's
too
not
high.
Crystal Palace, but it's
Yeah,
not Grey Goose.
exactly. It's a mid grade, right? I put it maybe a little bit in that absolute kind of category and everything. But long short, a while ago, before I started getting my my vodka from Costco, I was trying to be thrifty, and I saw it was a handle of that Svedka vodka for like 17.99. Got it. I'm making like some Cape Cods. I'm making some vodka seltzers, just whatever. I noticed every time that I busted that open, about the second drink in, started to get that nasty, cheap booze fucking headache sitting in. You know what I'm talking about? And every time, like the morning after I wake up, just that very low quality alcohol kind of taste in your mouth. Not like a hangover, but just not good booze. I don't ever get that with the Costco vodka. In fact, I've done some taste tests, and I'm pretty sure that the vodka we're drinking is Grey Goose with a Kirkland label on it. It's just amazing. It's just amazing. That's the first for me. And then you got the blended scotch. I think you're a fan too. Do you get the rye whiskey or do you get the bourbon?
I haven't gotten the rye whiskey yet. I have seen it there, and I've also seen their aged scotch. They have 12 and 15 and whatever.
Some single malts in there.
Yeah, and I wanted to check that out too at some point. But typically I'll go get, there's 4 items that are staples in my house that we just consistently have. We have Kirkland's Irish whiskey. We have Kirkland's blended scotch. We have Kirkland's Canadian whiskey and Kirkland's vodka.
Oh yeah,
always in the liquor cabinet. So
yeah.
that's just how we roll. But they really are. I don't know. Kudos to the booze purchasing and R&D department at Costco. You guys are on your game. Please stay on it. We love you.
It's amazing.
If you want to reach out, we will be more than happy to plug you to drink your booze.
We're going to drink your booze and plug you anyways. But yeah, if you want to send us some our ways, we're not going to be happy. But even the beer, bro. I know you're not a big beer drinker. I was talking to a buddy of mine the other day. They have a version of call it Coors Light, Miller Lite, right? That's just Kirkland brand. Now, I haven't gotten it because I think that type of beer is kind of disgusting. But he was telling me, it's like, dude, it's hands down, it's awesome. And it's like cheaper than Coors Light, Miller Lite.
So that's our lake beer?
Yeah.
So when we go to the lake, we get that. It literally just says light beer on it.
Yeah.
It's just a silver
it's almost like perfectly set up for being in like television shows that don't want to pay the royalties and everything. But yeah, no, it's that. But again, they have I think they have a 24 pack of like craft beers, like IPAs and different types of pilsners and stuff like that. $19.99. It's the cheapest one by far. And they've literally gone out and bought all kinds of microbrews. So it's just amazing beer. And I actually picked up just for my wife, actually, she likes gin. I went ahead and got the handle of the London Dry Gin, right next to the Bombay Sapphire.
How was that?
It's actually pretty fucking good. And I went ahead too and got their silver tequila handle for $17.99. Better than Cuervo, which is not saying much, but still top-notch shit.
I almost did that this time. I was there on Friday. I almost grabbed the tequila, but I went a different direction.
Yeah,
but I've been wanting to try it. It's fun taste testing Kirkland stuff because it's going to be good.
And the other thing I think that makes it just taste so much better when it goes down is the value that you paid for it, right? I mean, that value probably tastes sweeter than everything. So there's that.
I work on a drunk percent of drink ratio.
Yeah.
So if my percent of cost per drink equals my better buzz, that's the value that I equate it all to. It's very intricate formula that I work on, but I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, hands down, man. Well, the other thing I noticed too, Bob, and you may have noticed this as well, is Costco, even though the hoarding shopping maybe did cause a little dip in certain things, I noticed toilet paper is back now in a hard way. I don't know if you've seen that there, but that seems to be...
It is. If we could make Corona tests as fast as we reproduce toilet paper, we'd be in business.
Yeah, but seriously, let's pump the brakes there. That's not going to happen. Baby steps, Bob. Baby steps. But yeah, the other thing too is despite what's going on, their meat department is always still very, very stocked, Bob, which is interesting. I think you had brought something up the other day about just the lack of meat, didn't you?
Yeah, so if you go to like Albertsons or Smith's, I'm having a hard time finding chicken breasts specifically lately.
Yeah, what the fuck is that?
I
I
don't
haven't
know.
found chicken breasts like the Costco individually wrapped ones, you know. Every time I go there, they're sold out. It's really frustrating.
Yeah, chicken's been really hard to find, but just in general, meat's been hard to find.
Ugh.
And I know that there's a meat supply issue happening right now, but that's because I don't know if everyone knows, but there's two separate supply chains of meat distribution, right? So there's the grocery store section.
And then there's the meat I'm packing, and then
there's the man meat. Uh,
I'm sorry,
but
Bob. I didn't mean to interrupt.
it's hard to start talking about meat. I know you lose your mind. But there's the other like industrial side that's more of the wholesaler, the high quantity side, and that's where the farmers really, and the ranchers really make their money is off of those volume distributions, right? So they'll get rid of their half of their lot of pigs or whatever at one time because those are going to things like campuses, cafeterias, schools, colleges,
Jails.
prisons, jails. So there's a bunch of that goes on, and with all the schools shut down, that's just taking away the demand in that whole line of distribution, right? So there's no agility in that to like get it on over to be packaged and distributed to the grocery stores for some reason. I don't quite understand that's this crazy logistical fucking impossible puzzle to solve, but there you have it. So we have farmers killing off and euthanizing, pigs and chickens and because they can't get rid of it fast enough, and they've got more coming up, and they can't afford to just feed them all indefinitely, right? But then we go to the store and our fucking shelves are empty. Like, it makes no sense. Have you noticed all that going on?
It's been. Oh yeah, absolutely, dude. And it's been very interesting. I don't know quite what's going to be missing when I go to the store because it's very lopsided too. Like you're saying, with Costco, right now it's chicken. If you want ground beef, they've got fucking 90,000 pounds of ground beef ready to rock and roll. And for some reason, there's pork shoulders up my ass. Now, I know why one of them's up my ass, but why there's so many at Costco, I have no idea why. But if you try to get anything else, it's weird because at the other grocery store, I've had to do this too. I've had to toggle. I've had to go to like 3 or 4 different grocery stores to find all the meat and eggs and things like that I need, right? Because some people will be completely sold out of eggs. Other people will be completely sold out of ground turkey for some reason. It's very frustrating. But yeah, I did hear something that's kind of a positive thing there. I heard that the USDA had agreed to, I think, buy $1.5 billion worth of meat and other agricultural products from U.S. farmers. This was really recently. Did you hear that?
Was there a plan to distribute it, or is it just like a subsidizing?
I think it's just a subsidizing thing. I think it's just to try to get some of it off their, get some of it off their plate, for lack of a better term. And that way, maybe we're not like, euthanizing a lot of like piglets and stuff. I don't know, but who knows? We'll see what happens.
So there's a lot of things that I think are going to change that have been exposed from the coronavirus lockdowns, right? I think that we've been skating by on some of our inefficient methodologies because they've been more cost effective, but we don't have any DR. There's no disaster recovery plans for any of this. So if something fails, there's no plan B. There should always be a plan B. So I think that a lot's going to change with the industry, and not just with the meat production and the 2 supply lines. I think you're going to see a lot more intermediate distribution points instead of these huge distribution points that could get clogged up and have single points of failure. I think you're going to see a lot more of that co-op style distributions and more trips, but we'll see. I don't know. Knowing America, we'll go right back to doing the same shit we've always done and keep fucking ourselves over because we're idiots and it's all about the bottom line at all cost, even if there's no plan B. But hopefully this will shed some light. I know that like the workers inside of the plants, I'm sure that this will change the whole way that OSHA regulates safety regulations. That
Sure.
Now workers will just have to be 6 feet apart in general. There's no more of this shoulder to shoulder, so they'll have to start building their assembly lines to meet that demand that for the CDC that hopefully will come at some point, and that'll mean an investment to change it. And when they build new plants, they'll just have to build it to that spec right away, and it's going to cost some money. But will it cost as much money as getting fucked like this? Because our economy has lost, I don't even know, like $1 trillion. It's been ridiculous.
And you're right, though, too. Like, are we going to learn anything from this? It seems to me like our country has the memory of Joe Biden. So probably not. We're probably not going to remember anything. We're going to go right back to doing what we do and make the same mistakes, unfortunately. But you had mentioned something, too, Plan B. Now, everybody needs a Plan B. And I'm very, very happy we thought about that, too, so we didn't have an unwanted butt baby. You remember that?
It was 27 years ago. I'm going to have to go to the Senate archives. Too soon?
Oh, my goodness. No, it's perfect. It's fantastic. Man. Well, anyways, guys, buy U.S. meat, I guess. Right? Or how are you not getting U.S. meat?
I don't know. You could buy Kobe beef, I guess.
No way. Nothing for the Asians right now.
I know, but it's a little risk reward thing, right?
It's true.
Kobe beef tastes really good, but high temperature.
Could get very sick. Could get very sick. It was interesting too. That kind of brings me to something else, man. I know you probably heard it. It was all over the place about a week ago. People are still talking about it. I believe some people have actually already died from attempting the literal interpretation of this too. But Trump saying that you can inject disinfectant. Did you watch that clip? Did you watch the actual clip?
I specifically went and watched the whole thing because you always get, well, that was out of context, no matter which left or right person you're talking to. It's always out of context, right? But you know what's not out of context, Scott? And that's fucking watching something live. You get all of the context, right?
True.
And so, yes. Yeah, he did say the words, maybe we could potentially inject something, a disinfectant or cleaner, because it kills the shit instantly. Have we looked into that? Sunlight kills this shit pretty good. Have we looked into that? Or can we put lights in there? Or whatever. What he was really doing was he was spitballing. But the problem is he was spitballing on live fucking TV and anticipating that that all listeners had an IQ over 100. But all listeners did not, Scott. All listeners did not.
Yeah, no, and funny enough, I know we've bashed on this state a little bit here, but I believe there was no, not that one.
Okay.
It's neighbor to the north, Georgia. But I believe there was already a death there from somebody like taking shots of Lysol or some kind of disinfectant. So again, I hear what you're saying, 100%. You can't sit there on live American television and expect everybody to understand exactly what's going on. And you really shouldn't be having a brainstorm session with the CDC with, like, obviously he's not an expert in what he's talking about. So basically saying
most of the time, Scott.
Yeah, he's not an expert, but I do agree with that. I mean, to literally be spitballing ideas at a round table with all the cameras and lights on you and reporters everywhere. And let's face it, numerous news sources itching for you to say something they can blow the fuck up that kind of reinforces their rhetoric, right? And that's really what it was, too, and I understand that.
And I don't understand the... You play Maiden, right? Madden football game?
Love it.
All right, so,
Madden.
like, when you're, like, building a character, whatever, there's this, like, offensive speed, agility, power, all this stuff. But then there's that offensive awareness rating, right?
Oh, you mean like intelligence?
Right. Trump has like zero like awareness ever when he's speaking. Like he seems to really have a disconnect between the things that he's saying and how it's going to be perceived. And being a lifelong socialite and then reality TV personality dealing with ratings and PR and all of this, it baffles me and it blows my mind that he has zero concept of this, that he cannot PR himself or have any idea of like what's going to come from the things that he says. Do you think he's just that caught up? Do you think it's like a behavioral disorder? Like, what do you think is the disconnect there when he's in front of a camera?
I believe it's his narcissistic, like, just roots, right?
Just like a behavioral thing.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, again, if you think you're the smartest person in the room and you can do everything better than everybody, what's the point in checking yourself? Because what you're saying is already the best thing that could be said, and anybody that's not interpreting it the way that he is trying to lay it out is stupid, right? So, I mean, you got to think of it from that angle too. He's in his own bubble of awesomeness, so to speak. He's in his own bubble of orange Trump awesomeness, and nobody can pop that bubble. Now, kudos to him for that. I don't have that kind of self-esteem, right? But goddamn, he's up there.
Dude's walking around like Dirk Diggler. I mean, maybe not physically, but definitely mentally.
Yes, he definitely has a Dirk Diggler type attitude in here, not in his nether regions. But I don't know. Who knows? Who knows what's going on there? But it's interesting, man. It's one of those things, like when I literally woke up the morning, I think he had said that the day before, I get on my phone, I see, yes, Trump actually said this. Yes, Trump actually said to inject Lysol.
It's like immediately the forehead slap, right?
Yeah, and I was like, no, and me, probably a little bit different than you, I wanted to give the guy some credit, right? I was like, no, I don't think he said that. There's no way he said that. So I just kept looking it up, and I was like, oh, every news source is telling me, yeah, no, he said that. I was like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, and if you look at it, like, from a, an intelligent lens of just normal conversation having, you can obviously tell he's spitballing ideas. But then you know that there are some, how do I even say that nice, not bright folks that are going to hear that and not understand that he's spitballing something and just take that as the gospel.
Well, let me get you the PC version of that. Some stupid motherfuckers.
Thank you. You read my mind like a book, Scott. Like a book.
This is why we do the show together.
And immediately, as soon as I saw it, I'm like, oh, look. Some asshole's going to, like, die from this. Because that's, like, the same thing that happened with the hydrochloroquine, right? And then some motherfucker looks it up, and he's just like, oh, look, that ingredient's in this chemical. I'll just take that instead because I can't get it. And then they go, like, killing themselves. I think it was in Arizona. But you knew it was going to happen. I mean, every time. It's like, well, the FDA hasn't done tests on this. Can you get this on the streets? Oh, shit, you can. Someone's going to die.
You can get everything on the streets, bro. But, here's the other thing, too. And I understand there's going to be all kinds of people like, if you think Trump said, go inject Lysol, you need to go ahead and let natural selection take its course, and, you'll eventually be gone, too, right? There's a bunch of people with that rhetoric right now, too. But let's face it here. The reason why saying something like this and even inferring that, they're on the same line and you're almost talking about putting disinfectants in your body, we just got over an entire generation of kids eating fucking Tide Pods, right? So got to tread lightly when you start talking about putting shit in your mouth that's not supposed to be there with this American people right now, if you ask me. Not the stiffies, for thank God we don't have to worry about that with our crew. But, yeah, they are not representative.
I'm going to venture to guess we don't have a single stiffy that has eaten a Tide Pod.
God, you know what? That's a bold remark right there. I'm going to hope so, too. Goodness gracious, guys. Please don't do us wrong on that one, man. But
no, if you inject or drink bleach or whatever, you'll have an epic fail. Speaking of epic fails.
Yes.
Did you catch Wes Galen and Puddle of Mud cover some Nirvana?
Oh, my God, dude. Wow. That's all I got to say. Wow. In fact, now I really know what I look like on the toilet when I'm having a green chili shit. That's not quite going as planned, because that's his face when he's trying to, let's face it, sound like Kurt Cobain on some of the more kind of guttural kind of, raspiness. Yikes, bro. I don't know, man. I mean,
what was your favorite part? Was it like the red shaking, or was it the veins popping out?
Now, my favorite part is, like, it's actually a combination of those with a little hint of, oh my God, I think I'm starting to have a stroke, because it has like all those elements kind of wrapped together. His mouth starts doing something a little bit weird too, He does this.
Yeah, he's obviously reaching, right? It's a terribly incredible reach that he's trying to make there.
You almost want to help him out and reach down and just squeeze his balls for him. Be like, here, let me help you out, dude.
Like, you know, most bands rehearse. That did not look rehearsed.
Well, and you're gonna ask me what's my favorite part? That they decided to post the video. That's my favorite part. Like they rewatched it and they said, "Yeah, guys, one take and done. We are badass." You know,
see,
like, come on.
I've been thinking about that. Like, how did that piece of shit get aired as a final cut? How did it make it off the cutting room floor, right? And then I just figured that they probably saw that and said, "You know what? This is fucking terrible, guys. However, this is like viral material. Like, if we get this out there, we might actually sell some albums."
Yeah, it's like, guys, if we get this out there, people might even know who Puddle of Mud is again, and that's important.
Maybe we should cover some Nirvana, but like on the toilet.
Yeah.
And we'll make a viral video, and then maybe people will buy our albums.
You know, I'm not trying to toot our own horn here at all because, you know, we both have some musical chops, but I think we'd have a hard time fucking up Nirvana as much as they did. I think we'd have a hard time.
Well, yeah, I think anyone would have a hard time. That was really bad.
I don't know too if you saw like a couple days later, because I honestly think, and this is what kind of baffles my mind too, is like how did it make it, right? How did they say, yes, this is a wrap, upload this shit, let's get it going? And then I thought to myself, okay, is Wes kind of like Trump and like everybody else in the band, like his cabinet members, like they just kind of like, you know, yeah, that's
they're
awesome.
afraid to tell him that this is like terrible. You're fired. I'm gonna get a new bass player.
You're Wes, building a wall on the Mexican border is not a good idea. Shut up! It's like you don't know what's going on there.
You're fired. Ooh.
Anyway. Hey, Wes, are you okay? You've been in the bathroom for 45 minutes. I'm fine.
It's like, maybe you should like hold off on the cheese-covered cheese sticks with extra cheese the day before you try to sing some Nirvana. But it's okay because you covered it with habanero Tabasco, so you're good.
Well, you know, it is though, because and then I watched it once, like, oh my god, wow. Oh my god! And this is why I don't like Puddle of Mud. You know, I've always disliked the band. What did they have? Like one song that kind of put them on the map from the late '90s or something like that. I can't even remember, dude.
Yeah, I've never really given two shits for Puddle of Mud myself.
Yeah. No,
in fact, I don't see them on your background.
No, they're not. They're not going to be on this background.
Okay.
This is more heavy metal elites. Some of them not. But if you notice, there's definitely some.
Well, it just looks like there's good bands.
Yeah,
so they probably didn't make the good band list.
They didn't make it. But and here's the other thing. I don't know if you saw this too, because this tells me that this was not planned. Like dropping this, like you were thinking, that's a very smart move. Get a viral video of him just sounding like horse shit. Yeah, this will get us back on the map, guys. This is going to be awesome. But then like two or 3 days later, I see like where I looked up the old YouTube video. It's like Wes Scanlon can actually cover Nirvana. I can actually do this. And there's all these videos of him like trying it again, or there's alternate like versions that are supposed to be better quality. So I think that was like kind of their cover up, you know.
Well, I'll tell you what. Mess. After watching Wes Galen like drop a fucking Coke can size deuce, I was much more open to the Post Malone cover of Nirvana. It made that it gave it a much softer landing than it otherwise would have. So maybe he was up against this. He was like, hey, can you go like rip this song a new one so that I can go and people will be much more forgiving after your song comes out?
Yeah, that's actually a pretty well thought out idea, because I was very resistant to even listening to the Post Malone covers. They were pretty good though. They were pretty good. The music was pretty good.
You can tell he's a fan.
You can tell he's a fan.
That music.
Absolutely. So did Wes, but apparently he skipped singing lessons altogether, or just I don't know what he did there.
Meth makes you forget, Scott.
That's true. And please don't do meth. Please don't do meth. It's all about the kids.
It is. So we want to always give our message out to the kids. Don't do meth. Don't eat cheese-covered cheese logs with habanero hot sauce before you cover Nirvana.
And kids, don't listen to Puddle of Mud, okay?
Yes, you'll be better off for it. The women will flock to you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Speaking of that, I am not even really in the know about The Hills, right? The show. Apparently, you do.
Oh, I don't know anything about the Hills.
You don't know it?
No. I know a little bit about bad quarterback play. I know a lot about that.
Then we at least can talk about Jay Cutler. Then yes, absolutely. 100%.
Well, if you're talking about bad quarterback play, you can always talk about Jay Cutler.
And you know what's funny about Jay Cutler too? Besides his little short-lived quarantine marriage here, what have you, for being such a shitty quarterback, he always has this smug fucking look on his face too. You know, which I think
most NFL quarterbacks do.
Even if they really suck.
It's the Trump phenomenon. Right. They're the smartest athlete in the room at all times.
Gotcha.
They don't know that they suck. So the narcissism that goes along with being quarterback, I think you have to have a certain level of that and a short memory so that you can, keep moving forward.
So it sounds like bad NFL quarterbacks are kind of like Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite, but they did get to play in that game and win state. And I see. Okay, that makes more sense. But tell me, who is Kristen Cavallari, right?
So I don't know. She's Jay Cutler's trophy wife. I mean,
she was on that show, The Hills, right? I'm just trying to remember.
I don't know the show, The Hills. I just know that they had a reality TV show together, and I don't know what it was called. I just know that they did have a reality TV show together.
Oh, wait a minute. She was on Laguna Beach in the real Orange County, and then later was given her own television series. Fuck, I don't even know she's on The Hills.
She might not be.
No. I think we just fucked that up, but that's okay.
It's okay. We didn't fuck that up near as much as they fucked up their marriage.
Not as bad as Jay fucked up the marriage and fucked up his football career.
I mean, they're always all over the tabloids or whatever because of their attention-starved, media-crazed reality TV folks. But other than that, they do have children. So you would think when you have children, you've been married for 10 years, that things are probably solid. They should be at that point, right? You should have figured it out after a decade. You should be pretty good. But it's all good until 6 to 8 weeks of quarantine, and then boom, marriage over. just like that.
Wow. Yeah. Look at that. 3 children together too. I'm looking at it right now. Wow. Yeah, April 2020. They were simply, quote unquote, growing apart. Yeah, when you finally have to hang out with your superficial reality star wife for a month, I guess that'll do it, huh?
Yeah, when the cameras aren't forcing you to be civil, and you're going to behave how you normally behave and treat people like shit how you normally do off camera. And you have to have sustained off-camera relationships where the cameras aren't forcing you to fake it.
Are you talking about me now?
No, it's the general you. The general you.
I was like, is this about me and you?
Yes, because when the cameras aren't rolling, we're not even friends, guys.
We talked about this before. It's tough. It's tough.
We drink to tolerate each other.
Yeah, that's true. It's true.
I just find it fascinating that a month of quarantine can end a 10-year marriage.
Yeah,
that's fascinating to me.
Welcome to America, baby, and welcome to Jay Cutler's world, apparently. But I think I'm gonna go ahead and put that baby to bed, just like Jay did. And that's not a stab at his 3 kids. I hope they get plenty of money from him, which is going to be hard because I don't believe he has a contract anymore. Is he still playing football?
No, he's retired.
Is he retired, or will nobody hire him?
Is there a difference in football? I thought
Touche.
that was the same thing.
But you know what? You know who is getting hired and who got hired with him? The ambiguously gay duo is now in Tampa Bay. No, I'm talking about Mr. Tom Brady. We already talked about this. He's going to be in the lovely Tampa Bay Buccaneers outfit this season. But joining him, as I'm sure you heard, is Mr. Gronkowski, which I think is pretty interesting. What do you think about that, Bobby?
I love me some shirtless gyrating Gronk.
Gronky baby.
Oh, Gronk! It's just the coolest name to say in sports. Gronk. He's probably the most outgoing personality in most all of sports. I do find it fascinating that
He's kind of like the Dennis Rodman of now, a little bit.
a little bit.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
He's
yeah.
got a lot of I'm gonna party and I degaff what everyone thinks.
And I'm still gonna come in and fucking rock it at my job.
Yeah, because I'm like 6'7", 270.
Yeah.
And no one can stop me.
Now, Bob, all kidding aside, though, I mean, do you think this was a good move? Do you think this is going to move the needle in Tampa Bay? Do you think they're going anywhere with this combination, or is it a little too late? I mean, what are your thoughts?
It'll be interesting to see. I think Brady actually being in Tampa Bay is going to solve a couple of answers right away. Was it Jameis Winston or was it that offensive line that made him terrible?
We'll see.
Tom Brady will let you know right away if it's the offensive line.
Yes, he will. Yes, he will.
And
he'll let you know
won't have
right
it.
away.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And even if it is the offensive line, he'll get more out of them because he commands respect.
True.
Now, the question for me is that offense is probably ready to go. I mean, they got Mike Evans. They got Gronk now, tight end.
That opens up everything else.
Yeah, it really does. Like
yeah.
now, if you have to cover a tight end and an elite receiver and a running back and a quarterback that gets rid of the ball like that quick, it's going to be a good offense. But the question is, how's that defense going to be? I mean, if the defense is good, then yeah, it'll definitely move the needle in Tampa Bay. And they weren't a terrible team. Like, you know, they weren't the Bengals, all right? But it's very possible that they become I don't know if it's a Super Bowl contender, but they're definitely a playoff contender right away.
I agree with you 100% there. It is going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. I see it going one of a couple of ways. I mean, you kind of highlighted right there. There's definitely going to be a lot more threats. And just having Gronk on the field, let's face it, having Gronk on the field is going to take less attention away from Evans, and that's very, very dangerous because now you're going to have this game. It's like, do we double team Gronk? Do we double team Evans? Do we double this guy in the slot? I mean, now it's going to create all kinds of problems because you also have a quarterback that can throw with fantastic precision too, right? Not somebody that literally is the best defensive player for the other team like Winston was, right? This is the only guy.
MVP, baby.
Yeah, he threw more interceptions, I think, than receptions or something fucking crazy. But no, but really, really crazy. So it could go that way. It can go where like it just creates this amazing chemistry, right? And they just have this most explosive offense. And you're right. If the defense can keep up with the offense, we could see definitely a playoff team. Let's just call it what it is, right? I mean, if they're going to be going in the NFC South, I mean, who's the biggest threat? The Saints, right? I would say the Saints are probably the biggest threat.
Yeah, it's definitely the Saints.
That kind of bodes well because you got like two aging quarterbacks. You got Breeze, who has to stand on his tippy toes to throw the ball sometimes because he's not that tall. And Brady doesn't have to deal with that, but he's also, I think, a year or two older. I don't know exactly where that. So that'll be interesting to play out. But then on the other side of things, dude, Gronk does not have a history absent of some pretty hardcore injuries. Neither does Brady. Right. So that's my other big thing. We could have this huge morale boost, this shot in the vein, right? You know, shot in the arm from having these awesome superstars come down to Tampa Bay. First play of the game, Gronk gets injured. He's out for the season. Brady gets one big hit at his age. He could be out for the season, or he could just be out, you know,
So,
and then where do we go? You know,
I think Gronk's going to be ready to go. I think he's going to be pretty durable. I'm pretty sure he had a back surgery like right after he retired last year to try to fix himself up. He was really beat up, and he made a lot of that about being beat up, but he's taken a lot of time off. He's gotten a lot of mental time off because it sounds like it sucks ass working for Belichick. It sounds like that's one of the worst jobs in sports is to play under that guy. You get to win a lot of championships, but you also have to like sacrifice everything else.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Your personal life,
and that's the other interesting that's going to play into effect here is without the Belichick effect, right? How good are these guys? We've never seen them without them, right? So, and you can't always attribute the coaching to the results. Obviously, the players have to execute, right? If the players don't execute, you can have the best fucking coach in the world drawing up plays, right? So that's going to be pretty interesting to me is like, okay, take Belichick out of the picture. Are these guys as pivotal as they are by themselves without his guidance? I have no idea. It's kind of a hard question to answer if you ask me.
I think we're going to find out that Tom Brady's the man overall. And I think that he's got a huge fucking chip on his shoulder to prove to everyone that that's the case. So I would look for a lot of that. He's probably going to slave drive that team to win just because he's got so much to prove.
Wow. So Brady, a rich white northerner, goes down to Florida and starts slave driving, huh? Interesting. Oh, he's a rich aristocratic white guy through and through, isn't he?
No, Scott, that was taken out of context.
No. You heard it here first, folks. He really did say that. Brady is going down to start a cotton mill in Florida.
I knew it. Can't say nothing.
Bob cannot speak proper English. He said cannot.
You got that? Don't hurt yourself.
I know. I was going to say can't say anything.
On
nothing.
that note, let's go make a drink.
It's that time, isn't it? Already. It seems to sneak up on us every single time.
Like every day or when we do our show?
Well, let's just, let's just go with the show. Let's just go with that.
We'll start there. We'll keep it there.
Yeah, man. Let's go get our... What?
Oh, I was just going to say, we might have our bosses listening. We're going to...
Oh, yeah, that's right. Wink, wink. After work. But, yeah, let's go... and I'm really excited. If people don't already know, maybe by our backgrounds, the stiff truth is going to be fucking phenomenal today. And we got an awesome drink. So, yeah, let's go get that rolling. And... do you have anything else you want to say, Bob? Or do you want to just go get the drink? Or do you want me to shut up?
Hey, Scott, let me ask you, do you have solar?
I don't.
I've been thinking about getting solar for my house. Do you know of a good solar place that I could contact to try to get that done?
I actually do. Straight Line Roofing and Solar Consulting, actually.
How do you know of those guys? Are they good?
Well, they're huge. They're huge. They actually bring you the best mix of quality and affordability for families in New Mexico. You're in New Mexico, right?
I am. I'm in Rio Rancho.
Good deal. Well, you can take advantage of them. Don't worry, because they're also a authorized dealer with Nexus Energy Systems.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. And they're presenting this week's Stiff Drink. This week's Stiff Drink is presented by Straight Line Roofing and Solar Consulting, bringing you the best mix of quality and affordability for families in New Mexico. There we go. It's just, it's just on my mouse. No big deal. Here, let me try this one more time.
Let's get a good shot. Let's get a good shot for the thumbnail.
Oh yeah. All right. Marg down.
So.
Oh.
I left my my lime garnish. I don't know what I was thinking. I cut them up, but I just didn't put it on there. Anyway.
It's okay.
So, with Cinco de Mayo being so close, how could we resist having some margaritas?
We can't, bro. We had to bring it in. We had to bring it right in. You know what I mean?
We did. I mean, it's been a theme all week for me. I had like fajitas a couple of days ago. Tacos, burritos, taquitos. Like we've been going through the gamut here. And I got some carne asada for Tuesday, so we can have some carne asada street tacos.
Good man.
Legit.
Love it. Actually, last night and night before, almost killed the entire thing, and I got another one. Sadie's green chili salsa, hot. Fucking money. It literally tastes like New Mexico to me. I keep telling Jamie that. I was like, this literally tastes like New Mexico to me. It's fucking phenomenal.
How about the 505 green chili sauce?
Well, I get some from Costco, as you know.
Yeah. Love the 505 green chili sauce.
I actually got some of that when I went there on yesterday. Had to pick some up.
Good man. I tried their organic salsa. Have you ever seen their tub of salsa that they have?
Yes.
It was on sale for like $5, so I tried it out. It's fantastic.
I've gotten it before. Good. It's really good for like that chunky salsa, kind of like more like the pico de gallo
Yeah,
kind
it's
of.
like freshly blended, like restaurant style.
Yeah, it's very good
Super
stuff.
good, super good.
Very good.
Anyway, obviously we like Mexican food.
Well, you know, I was born in New Mexico. I believe you were born in the state neighboring, but I think you've lived in New Mexico for a decent amount of time. You went to high school
Since
in Belen, right?
1993.
See,
I
me,
was
19
moving to New Mexico. Joe Biden was assaulting young women. Allegedly.
Allegedly. That's correct. Don't ever get it twisted.
I can say anything I want as long as I say allegedly. We're okay.
Now, this right here, Bob, just so you know, we've got the Kirkland brand silver tequila. We've got the, very good, we've got the Kirkland brand margarita mix, as Bob just showcased for you. And I even got these fucking limes from Costco, too.
I did too. Huge
Yeah.
bag of limes.
Oh, dude, it's a fucking, I think it's a 5-pound bag of limes for like $5.99 or something crazy like that.
Yes.
Get right out of town.
I am lined up.
Boy, that just brought me back to some dark places.
Being limed up?
No, lined up.
Oh.
Whew. You remember Dustin's John Elway signed autograph poster or whatever it was?
Oh, man. Don't remind me of that.
Stiffies, we're taking it way back, but just so you guys know, we used to do recreational drugs off of a signed John Elway picture that was framed that a buddy of ours had that we were rooming with in our first apartment. Fun times. Anyways, let's move along.
Quickly.
Oh, goodness, Bob. Well, I'll tell you what, man. And this is really the God's honest truth. I'm fucking fired up for today's Stiff Truth because we talked about it. This is something I'm very passionate about. It's something I've actually studied and I've been a huge fan of for a long time. So when I learned that we were going to be talking about this, I was pumped. And then I'm also very excited to announce too that today's topic is going to be the first topic that's going to be a running topic for a little while, right, Bob?
We're providing a theme. Over the next few episodes, we want to discuss metal, how it came to be, how it grew, how it evolved.
Exactly. So before in the Bronze Age, we didn't really use a whole lot of metal beyond a couple of things, and then we started making steel. This is a really really juicy subject, right?
The metallurgy was touch and go for several centuries,
and then titanium came into play. Oh my God! And that's when things got really exciting. No, obviously Bob is talking about the music genre there, metal, heavy metal. Where did it come from?
Something that's really near and dear to our hearts and always has been.
Absolutely.
Not to say I don't like other music, but I'm a huge fan of metal.
Yeah, well, I'm going to just say what it is, man. I mean, if I think about myself, and my wife can attest to this too, in high school, I was that guy. Every single day had a different heavy metal T-shirt, rock, concert shirt on, be it Fear Factory, be it Pantera, be it Ozzy Osbourne, be it Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, Misfits, whatever. I don't think I wore anything else in high school besides hard rock concert T-shirts, and it was just great. It was great times.
Yeah, and I remember taking it farther back to middle school, rocking a Ride the Lightning shirt.
Ooh.
With the flannel around the waist.
Yeah. Now that's kind of taking it back to the early 90s. I remember that era too. In fact, I used to have a Dr. Feelgood Motley Crue shirt that I used to wear. Yeah, when it came out, when that album came out in 1990, thought it was really fucking cool shit. And then of course, me and my brother's room at that time too, the late 80s, early 90s, big black tapestries. I know where you thought I was going when I said big black, so just erase it right now. But big black tapestries of let's see what we had. We had Black Sabbath one. We had a Appetite for Destruction. That awesome like fucking logo that they have with Axl and all the guys as skulls
it's like the skull
on the cross.
Crossbones with the pistols, the revolvers.
It's like their best shit right there. Had that. I even had a Kiss tapestry, even though I'm not a huge fan. Believe it or not.
They are a band. We'll get into them later.
Yes, we will. That much we can say about them. They technically are a band. That's very true.
They indeed are a band.
So specifically, Bob, and if you don't mind, I just was going to kind of let the Stiffies know a little bit here. We're going to kind of keep this one to the birth, right? The beginning of heavy metal. Where did it come from? What kind of music did it come from? Who started this? There's some controversy over this, right? And then there's also a lot of influencers that people don't think of when they think of heavy metal music, and how other bands, maybe that weren't quite what we would call heavy metal, but we would call like just different types of heavier rock with screaming and more guttural kind of stuff. A lot more minor chords are now being used with their power chords and stuff like that too. Just that little more of a sinister kind of sound.
I also want to throw it out there that beyond artistic, design and beyond the bands and the evolution artistically, that without the technology of the actual distortion and the electric guitar evolving also wouldn't have led to the birth of metal either. So there's a little bit of technology opened up more and then helped musicians start being creative.
Right. I don't think maybe it would have come later down the line, but when you have things, and let's just face it, he's not heavy metal, but when you have people like Jimi Hendrix, probably one of the most influential distortion guitar players, right, in the 60s, where he was playing things distorted. He signature, the crybaby wah wah pedal and everything like that. That starts to give birth to the sound of the guitar that plays right in perfectly and fits perfectly with heavy metal music too, right? So that's a good point, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely, and I do think you probably need to start there with Jimi Hendrix. I was actually discussing this with my wife when I mentioned the topic to her, and she's like, "Oh, the Beatles," and I was like, "Well, stop. Beatles turned folk music into rock music. Let's not make any mistake about that. But they did not turn rock music into metal music."
No. And there's an argument for that, and there's only one song technically, I guess you could say could be metal-esque, and that's Helter Skelter from the White Album. There's a lot of people, because of the beat and because of its notoriety, let's face it too, I don't think it would nearly be as eerie as a song if the Manson family didn't use that as their mantra and paint it all over the walls of their victims' houses too, right? And actually, they spelled it wrong. They wrote Helter Skelter on the wall, but they were very intelligent young women, and
they were murderers, not scholars.
Yes, on acid too. So that always, tweaks your language a little bit. But yeah, that's really about it. That's as far as we go with the Beatles. The Beatles are not metal. They're barely even hard rock at all. I wouldn't even class them as hard rock.
They're like folk rock.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I fucking love the Beatles, but they're not allowed to be in this conversation.
Me too. I have a tapestry hanging just around the corner over there. Love the Beatles. One of my favorite bands, but they're definitely not in this conversation. But what you do have is, you have Jimi Hendrix, like as we mentioned before. You have some of the other hard rocks, like Cream, the Kinks, the Rolling Stones, really opening up rock a little bit more, trying to leading that way in the late '60s. But then you have in 1970 the band that really started heavy metal. I'll let you elaborate on that one.
Sure, absolutely.
Since it's, like your favorite band.
Well, one of them for sure, absolutely. And it's Black Sabbath, guys. I mean, hands down, Black Sabbath are the creators of this genre specifically. I know people will sit here and argue with me a little bit that Led Zeppelin's anywhere. I've got plenty of things to say about Led Zeppelin, and people that like Led Zeppelin are probably not going to be very, very happy with me after the end of this show, but that's okay. I have some things to say, and they're fact-checked. But very interesting enough, Black Sabbath, and this is the case with, this is one thing I want to highlight. Where did metal come from? It came from blues music. Okay, that's the first thing I want to highlight right here. Every band that's considered heavy metal, you like you had mentioned, like some Cream, Iron Butterfly, Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin, all these guys. If you listen to their music, they're straight up fucking blues riffs, right? These are blues bands. In fact, Black Sabbath, before they decided to change their name to Black Sabbath, was a blues band from England called Earth, right? Very, very straight up, just like catchy little blues music. Now, the reason why I say, and beyond just going on to Google and asking who created, heavy metal music, it will pop up and say Black Sabbath because Google is very knowledgeable. But beyond that, the other thing that makes Black Sabbath the godfathers, the creators of this, is they were the very first ones to take music and put a dark spin on it, an evil spin on it. Not only with their riffs, right, and using more kind of power minor chords and stuff like that, but the way the whole name was created. They were standing outside doing their thing as late teens, early 20s. They just had started their band, their Earth, right? And they're watching people literally lined up all the way around the corner of this old cinema, right? This is the late 60s. And they're like, what the fuck, dude? What's going on over here? People are lined up to see a horror movie, right? And the horror movie is called Black Sabbath. And that's what really struck Tony Iommi, because he was the creator of Black Sabbath, not really Ozzy Osbourne. But like, man, I can't believe that so many people are going to line up to get fucking scared. Light bulb. Maybe we should make scary music, right? So this is how the whole thing started. And that's the other reason why they are definitely the marquee godfathers of heavy metal music, because that thought process started with them, right? And it carried over into their music. And boom, you have the first song coming out, late 60s, 1970, I think, is when the self-titled album came out, where you have the title track, Black Sabbath. You've heard it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, so evil. It's got the little church bell in there. Satan's coming, dude. You know, that is just... It's unheard of, right? If you go to the 60s and you start jamming fucking Rolling Stones, you start jamming the Doors, you start jamming the Beatles, and then you put on that fucking track, you're in a whole new world, man, right? And this is the birth of heavy metal right there. It's beautiful stuff.
And by the way, Ozzy just came out with a new album. It's probably be his last, because he's got Parkinson's now, right?
He sure does.
Came out with. So
Yeah.
he's probably done with music. But at like 70 years old, that dude is still jamming. Like, he still sounds great for a 70-year-old.
He's having a hard time giving it up too. I read some things that are they're pretty sad, because he doesn't want to stop, but his body's making him stop essentially at this time. So yeah,
Okay.
Tough times.
Are we going to circle back to Jay Cutler? Or? That was a low blow. We wish you guys luck on your divorce.
I hope the kids get everything I want.
Don't worry, Big Cat. You'll land on your feet.
We're talking about Kristen too.
So Black Sabbath came out, and you're right. And for a couple of years, they really took the rock world by storm. So much that churches were trying to ban their music, and it was this really big thing. Like, oh my God, these guys are the devil, and it's like, yeah, they're definitely PR masters. Mm-hmm. Any pub is good pub when you're a metal band. So they're really doing their thing, but along with that came other bands, like Deep Purple, and and I really forgotten about Deep Purple until the other day. I was driving my car, kind of preparing for the show, and I was listening to their I forget what the name of the song was, but I was just listening to some early '70s stuff from Deep Purple, and I was just like, man, that is some like good speed metal, and I didn't even realize it was Deep Purple. I had to look at my phone. I was like, holy shit, I forgot that these guys were hardcore, because you always hear Smoke on the Water. And that's like their weakest like pussy song that they have.
Honestly, I was trying to listen to Smoke on the Water the other day as I was prepping for the show.
Terrible.
Honestly, the riff is so goddamn generic and fucking elementary, and I'm not trying to be some kind of guitar snob or whatever, dude, but it's the first riff you learn on the guitar, right? It's like that or Come As You Are by Nirvana, right? It's like one or the other, dude. But that it's very awkward. It's really not a good track. Anyways, I'm off that.
Yeah, no, thank you. But a lot of their stuff was actually speed metal. I mean, it's kind of like just increasing the speed metal genre and kind of introducing it to the world in its infancy. And we will a lot more of that evolved in the 80s. In the early 80s was all about speed, which is in probably several different ways.
Yeah, cocaine too.
But, after Black Sabbath, they kind of opened the floodgates, hence being the grandfathers of fucking heavy metal, and really led into other bands in the 70s, so many other bands in the 70s.
And I like that you mentioned Deep Purple too, because I have had to do an analysis here. I had to do a little compare and contrast too. But if you take somebody like Deep Purple and their early stuff, the late 60s, early 70s stuff is I think their best. I think you're probably listening to Highway Star. It would be my idea, because it's that really just groove fucking fast song. But one thing that you'll notice parallel between Black Sabbath and older Deep Purple is they both, again, very blues heavy on their riffs, but quicker tempo, right? And a lot of high pitched screaming. All right, yeah, just going like nuts and everything, which again kind of different from your normal hard rock, right? Led Zeppelin, they do a pretty good. Robert Plant does a very good job of the scream too, and the old '70s scream, right? But yeah, I think Deep Purple is right there with not only the kind of their a little bit darker, kind of crunchier riffs and everything, but they're up tempo, just fantastic. Like you said, more of kind of speed and thrashy and everything. And the other thing, I mean, let's face it, man, the birth of the heavy metal guitar solo in the '70s too. You can't leave. Is it Richie Blackmore? Right? Is that right? Did I get that right?
Oh, for Deep Purple?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Richie Blackmore, because he was only a guitar player, I think, for like the late '60s to like the mid '70s, and then he took a hiatus for a while and came back. But that guy's signature fucking guitar solos. I mean, I have to imagine that's like people like Steve Vai and Satriani took a page out of his book, man, because his solos are very fast, very precision type stuff, very chaotic and just crazy. Even more so than say somebody like Tony Iommi too. And that is very, very pivotal thing, because if you think about it, when you start getting into the late '70s and early '80s, the guitar solo really starts to become a huge part of metal songs. Like, we're not going to get too far into it, but I think Metallica and Pantera, there's at least 2 guitar solos in every single song. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's that the '70s is where the guitar solo was really born. I mean, at least that epic fucking metal venue, leg on one speaker, guitar solo, right?
Absolutely.
Excuse me while I'm drinking my second margarita.
So funny. Look, I've actually touring members from 1993 to 1994 with Deep Purple. Guess who? Joe Satriani.
Oh, look at you go.
Good job, Richie. You taught him well, my friends. But beyond that, man, I mean, okay, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath. Let's go ahead and talk about Led fucking Zeppelin.
I knew it was coming.
Shall we? Shall we talk about Led Zeppelin? I got in a big argument, and this was in high school, right? It was a buddy of mine, Blair, and then some other friends. We were drinking, doing some things, and we started to have this argument. Who started heavy metal? And there was a division in the room between Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath. Don't ask me how this was even like a real argument, but it was. But the thing about Led Zeppelin, let's not get them wrong. Fantastic musicians, great musicians. Jimmy Page is a fantastic guitar player. Robert Plant is an amazing vocalist. And let's face it, his stage presence, right? Robert Plant gave birth to how David Lee Roth carried himself for Van Halen, how Axl Rose carried himself as the front man for Guns N' Roses, how Vince Neil carried. You know what I mean? He was that charismatic, carrying the fucking mic stand around a little bit more than Ozzy, too. He's very kind of sexual, always wearing like shirts where his stomach is kind of revealed and everything, just being really kind of cute and everything, right? However, the biggest problem with me with Led Zeppelin is most, and I say most, of their biggest hits are fucking stolen songs from old blues musicians from like the 40s and 50s. I don't have it all down. They took a lot of it from one guy. I'm not even going to bother to look it up right now because it'll take me a little bit too much time. But his family has sued Led Zeppelin numerous times, and other blues musicians that they can't really fight them, right? These are musicians that are kind of lost and gone, and they haven't really been around. Even in the 60s and 70s, they were already kind of lost and gone. So that's my biggest problem. Stairway to Heaven, Whole Lot of Love, all those fucking songs are ripoffs. So that to me discredits the band out of the conversation. Out of the fucking conversation, Bob.
Now, there's nothing wrong with playing somebody else's song, but you got to give credit.
Yes, and they did not give credit, and they wrote those up as original pieces, and that's fucking bullshit.
I mean,
what can I say about that?
Wes Galen gave all the credit to Nirvana.
Hey, and I'm going to tell you this: I'd rather listen to Puddle of Mud's cover of "About a Girl" than listen to Led Zeppelin and think this is a Led Zeppelin original, because my friend, almost all their songs that are famous are not Led Zeppelin originals.
Well, regardless of their original scoring chops, they were fantastic musicians and showmen.
Sure.
And they were quintessential in the metal genre. The music in general, rock, metal, wouldn't have been the same without them. So they do have their place in history. They're a really good band. They're not my favorite rock band of the 70s, but they're a good band. They have good stuff. A lot of people have stuff that's not written by themselves. I mean, anymore, that's common practice. And, in fact, the standard in music.
Sure.
So, well, for most mainstream music, I think I don't hear of many songwriters out there for metal bands.
Well, and here's the other thing, too. Right? And I'm not going to keep bashing Led Zeppelin for stealing everybody's music and not taking...
You're not.
Well,
That's
no,
not
I
what you
will.
said before the show.
Oh, okay. Here I go. No, I'm not going to keep pumping a dry well with them doing this. We already know they're frauds. I mean, let's just leave it alone at that. The other thing, though, if you think about their music, dude, it's really not nearly as heavy or in the same vein as Black Sabbath at all.
It's not.
It's very bluesy. It's very stadium rock like. You know what I mean? They are more of the genesis of people like Van Halen than say like Black Sabbath is more of a genesis for bands like Judas Priest and Iron Maiden.
So
you know what I mean?
Where music forked in the 70s, I think Zeppelin might have been kind of the start of hair bands.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely. Because, again, you start getting into, and there's nothing wrong with that. Again, there's some great music. You have to really kind of go through all the shitty makeup and, cross-dressers to find it. But there's some good music in there. There's some really good music in there. But you're right. It's almost like the music took, and I don't want to say took a back seat because, again, Led Zeppelin, there's some songs that I love, hands down. I wish they were theirs, but that's okay. We'll circle back to that again a little bit later, Bob. But you're right. There was more of this is a show, and you're getting more of a rock star kind of feel from like Led Zeppelin and bands that kind of followed that track, and almost like, hey, I want to be a rock star so I can get chicks kind of mentality, to where Black Sabbath and the bands that kind of followed them was like, we're gonna be evil. We're gonna act like we're Satan worshipers. We're gonna make we're gonna create these crazy mosh pits. We're gonna be fucking party animals or whatever, right? So it just went a little bit different. Still,
well, I think the big difference between Led Zeppelin is you can like blatantly tell that professional music producers were working with them hand in hand for their stuff, whereas with some of the other metal bands of the 70s, they weren't doing that. That they were just their own thing. By the time it got to the British metal bands coming in the late 70s, there was none of that. We could add also Kiss in that.
Yeah,
so Kiss started off, but then they started getting involved heavily with. I don't remember if it was Geffen or which record company it was back in the 70s, but they started getting heavily produced and marketed, right, to be mainstream. Same thing. So Led Zeppelin was kind of the marketing ploy, the mainstreamer.
Round 2.
Oh no, I'm on round 3, but appreciate you.
Sorry, I was doing the show.
Yeah, I was just watching you do the show. So
Got some popcorn over there to you.
I'm like, oh, this show's great, guys. What else, Scott? What else?
But seriously, I'm trying to think of it too. The only song I think that's up tempo and maybe that I would consider like a metaler song, a more metal song from Led Zeppelin is probably the Immigrant Song. You know what I mean? Immigrant Song is probably the only one that really hits it for me. So it's sad. It is what it is. But you're right. There's bands too like Kiss, and if we're going to start talking about Kiss, because I think we have to highlight them. I know there's some fucking diehard Kiss fans out there. I honestly, besides the song Detroit Rock City, I don't think I like any of their music at all.
They're not really my bag. Not to say that they're not great musicians and great showmen and whatever. I think over the years, from me growing up at my age, Gene Simmons already exposed himself outside of the makeup too much, so then like that further turned me off from Kiss.
Yeah, I thought you were going to go ahead and just say he kind of exposed himself as a complete and fucking total tool because he's like a total piece of shit. But yeah, that too.
Well, thank you for adding the color commentary there. Me trying to be a little bit PC about it. It's just once he started hitting the reality TV shows and really started getting on TV without the makeup, that's when I'm like, Gene, you're really like a douchebag of a person. I can't get on board with your band because of it.
honestly, I'm not anti-Semitic or anything like that, but when you take off the message, you're like, wow, he's a giant Jew. Like, he's like, you can tell he's extremely Jewish. He's got super curly hair, the facial features and everything. You're like, wow, maybe that's why they all wore makeup. I have no idea. Maybe they didn't want to be so outrageously stereotyped, but yeah, there's that too.
Well, that and just the, when you start actually like listening to him and you listen to the narcissism and you hear his laugh of all the womanizing and the me.
He's a jackass.
He's a total tool.
Yeah,
so that's why Kiss was never really my thing. But as I got to know more about Gene Simmons, it further turned me off from Kiss.
Yeah, absolutely, man. But with that being said, if we're going to kind of go where that band went, let's face it, Kiss was probably, we are not old enough to experience it in the 70s, but what I hear, even from people that don't like their music, their stage shows were fucking amazing. You know what I mean? Their costumes, the lighting, the smoke, the special effects for that time, again, was groundbreaking. There really wasn't other bands doing much of that, right?
One of the best rock shows that you could see.
Yeah, one of the best shows you could pay for, right, at that time. With that being said, you want to take somebody that's a better musician and still did kind of that stage show presence and even push it a little bit further with the shock jock kind of stuff. It's Alice Cooper, right?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, Alice Cooper, man, School's Out, that whole era, man, that mid 70s era, he's phenomenal. And God damn it, he's another person that if you go to see his shows, he's got the snake wrapped around his neck and shit. He's doing all kinds of shit, blood everywhere. That was, again, one of the first people that really started stepping out there. Without Alice Cooper, there's really no Ozzy Osbourne of the 80s or Marilyn Manson of the 90s. You know what I mean?
And without his cameo in Wayne's World, it wouldn't have been the same movie.
No. And who knew he was so goddamn educated too, right?
For real.
And really knew how to party.
Yeah, Alice Cooper's the man. Much less of a tool bag.
That's for sure.
He also started, because of Alice Cooper, there's some of my favorite bands. So Alice Cooper's kind of the shock rock's, I guess, a good way to put it. He is the godfather of shock rock. He was the original showman. He was the headline grabber. He was the person that your mom and dad warned you about in music, right? He was the guy that would lead you down the wrong path. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you start getting, parents that are concerned what their kids are listening to, and you start getting those kind of albums, right? It's like, what the fuck is this shit? But you're all, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's fucking right.
Yeah. When you got an album that people try to listen backwards to hear your devil message, you've done well.
You've done really well, yes. That was a litmus test for your kicking ass at writing evil music if people are trying to find secret codes in them that you wrote to Satan. The other thing, too, is you start having some bands, too. I can't leave them out of the 70s because they're huge players. They're more 80s players, so we'll save a lot of conversation for them for another time. But bands started popping up that are very pivotal in the mid-70s, like the boys in your background, Iron Maiden, or Judas Priest, too. Those are two big players that started in the mid to late 70s as well. And again, you cannot take them out of the 80s conversation at all. I don't know how heavily a lot of their 70s stuff does weigh, and I'm being a little ignorant here because I just don't know. But to my mind, I don't remember a bunch of 70s Iron Maiden and Judas Priest songs that were very pivotal to me. But still, nonetheless, they were born then.
Yeah, and they were the British rock, right? Because of Ozzy and Judas Priest and Iron Maiden. The stereotype of a metalhead having an English accent lived on for decades.
Yeah.
Even to this day, my daughter watches the new Trolls movie. One of the old grandfather characters in a wheelchair sounds just like Ozzy. Totally incoherent. You could barely hear him, but he's holding his fingers up.
I'll tell you what, though, man. I mean, all kidding aside, too, the British invasion not only was for 60s rock, but goddamn, I mean, almost everybody we're talking about is British. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like everybody. Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin. I don't know if Deep Purple is, though, but I'm thinking they are. Maybe not.
I don't know either. We'd have to...
I'm going to fact check it real quick. Here, fill up some space with talking about your coronavirus. Here, hey, cough in the microphone for a little while.
No, that's a can do. That's an easy one to do.
I'm such an asshole. I'm sorry. No, they're English rock group, dude. English rock. So again, almost everybody. Cream. You know, we can't leave out. We talked about it very briefly, but Cream again. Sunshine of Your Love, very pivotal song. More hard rock, but they're still kind of given some credit as one of the creators of the heavy metal genre too. Ginger Baker is probably one of the best drum players that did chaotic, crazy drums, also for Cream. Eric Clapton, yeah, all that good stuff. But all these guys are fucking British. So there it is. I guess we got to tip the hat to the Brits for heavy metal.
Yeah, it's very interesting that such an American genre.
It seems
so
that way,
British.
huh?
Yeah. Because, well, these days, you just don't really see heavy metal in Europe really at all, except for, like, what, Germany, Scandinavian countries. You see some of that kind of, Rammstein and some of the other, heavy metal that's come out. But it really has shifted over here, and it's these days it's shifted more to death metal, a bigger genre these days, which we'll get into, probably coming up in the next show. But these bands in the 70s, what a great time to live, right? Because you got in the early 70s, you got the Beatles kind of fading out and doing their thing, but then you have Pink Floyd and Sabbath and Led Zeppelin and Deep Purple and all these other bands just coming up, and everyone's just running around and having anonymous sex and doing drugs and drinking and playing metal and
didn't have to worry about AIDS yet.
Not yet.
Good time. Well, maybe some of them had it.
No one knew for years.
Nobody. So hey, ignorance is bliss. Move along. You're absolutely right, man. It's such a great time, and what's exciting about this is it's literally. I would have to compare it to something that I lived through, right, and that you lived through is, the beginning of grunge music and everything too. Very exciting time, kind of at that same time, the death of 80s hairband music and the birth of the grunge was very exciting because it was a new style of music. It was something that was like remade, right, again. And I think that happened in the 70s too with the late 60s psychedelic rock. Pretty much, right? So you've got like bands, even like Pink Floyd could be categorized kind of in that too. There are Uma Guma and stuff like that in the late 60s. Very weird kind of hit Beatle-esque sounding kind of music, man. You know what I mean? So
I'm glad that we traded, sitars for distorted heavy metal. That's a much needed transfer of music, I think, for me.
Yeah. And honestly, it was fresh, it was new, it was raw, it was real. And I think what happened, unfortunately, to a certain extent, not all these bands, is there was a need for a revamp in the early 90s again because it got stale, right? It got repetitive, it got sold out, it got manufactured. Hence, bands like, who did Cherry Pie?
Warrant.
It's like, sorry. And I know there's some, Warrant has some okay songs, but Cherry Pie killed fucking the 80s hair bands, man. That song, I believe, came out in 1990 or 1991. It was almost right when Nirvana came out with Smells Like Teen Spirit on MTV. But it was coinciding, dude. It was like this song dropped, probably the worst fucking manufactured piece of garbage from the 80s and early 90s and destroyed a genre. And then something came up to take its place right away. You know what I mean? So it was a need. It happened. We love it. God bless.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about Warrant, but we'll get into that in the next show. That's for you, CV.
That's right, baby. So hey, there it is, folks. Heavy metal. Where did it come from? It came from blues music. But what region? It came from London, England. Who started it? Black Sabbath.
So,
got anything else to add, buddy?
No, everyone can feel educated, including myself. I sometimes like to sit and marvel at your metal. You're a metal historian, and I appreciate you for it.
Just call me Matt Pinfield. Sorry.
But I do want to let everyone know that part 2 of our metal series will continue in our next episode as we discuss the evolution of metal in the 80s.
Yeah, baby. It keeps going. This train keeps going for a while, so we're going to enjoy it. 100%.
But that's really all that I have, unless you have anything else to add.
Just a couple of things, man. A couple little tidbits here. We brought him up before, but our boy, Poss the Boss, I think we gave him a shout out a few weeks back for hitting over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. He's well past 2,000 now, man. He's I think 2.25 when I checked. I think earlier today.
Look at him go! I'm so proud.
Oh God! Yes, and I'm also excited too to reinforce that we will be chatting with the young man here very, very soon, and we'll be on the show as our first interview. So very stoked about that. Want to pick his brain and learn a little bit more about that, man. Plus, he's got a couple of things he might want to say about heavy metal music too. I'm thinking, don't you?
He might have a little bit of input.
Yeah, he might have a little bit. So excited about that. And I know it might be a little ways off. I don't know. Think things are a little bit uncertain, Bob, but I'm kind of excited too about the post-plague edition. You want to tell the stiffies about that a little bit?
So once we're allowed to travel at some point, I'm going to take the fam up to Denver, and Scott and I are going to do a live show together in studio. We'll be streaming it on, I don't know if it'll be Patreon or if it'll be Facebook, where we're going to stream it at, but we will let you guys know for sure. There's more to come on that, but I'm so excited to get into studio with my boy and actually have a sit-down conversation.
Yeah, and it's definitely going to be a little while because I got to make sure Bob has been quarantined for 14 days and all that good stuff since he possibly has COVID. But anyways, back to a more positive note. How you feeling, Bob?
I don't like how you mentioned COVID and then positive. I think there was like a subliminal thing going on there. How dare you, sir?
Only you're picking it out, Bob, because you're hyper-focused on it right now.
Maybe because I haven't stopped coughing for like 10 days.
But he doesn't have a fever, which is good. And we talked about it the other day. He's got a headache, but then it's like the chicken and the egg kind of thing. Does he have a headache because he's another symptom of COVID, or does he have a headache because he's been coughing his brains out for a week?
Yeah, or is it the clap? I don't know. Nobody knows.
I don't know how much that plays into it, but I do know that's part of the whole scenario, Bob. But hey, I think we're about done, man.
One thing I do want to say is, everybody, please subscribe to us if you're watching this on YouTube. Do us all a favor. I just want to let everyone know and remind everyone that we do have a Patreon. We do have content hitting Patreon first. If you would like to support the show and you don't want to put in your 2 cents, but you want to throw in a little bit of cash to help us, we would appreciate the help. Help from our patrons really does help us improve the show. So, again, thank you to our lone raging stiffy, Shelly Jankowski.
Yeah, baby.
Shout out to her.
Shelly.
That's it. Next week we'll have our continuation of the evolution of metal, and we'll hit up the 80s and talk about that. But it's been a pleasure. Thank you for your time and for listening to us, and we will see you next week.
Love you, stiffies. Take care.